It appears the investigation into the shooting death of Trayvon Martin is far from over. The president's words come just as the Department of Justice orders Sanford police to hold on to all the evidence. We're talking about George Zimmerman's gun, too. Is this a sign they may pursue a civil rights case against Zimmerman? The Legal Dream Team is here to break down the latest development. Want to introduce attorneys Tanya Miller, John Phillips, Darren Kavanoki joins us live from Los Angeles. Good to see all of you. Tanya, I want to start with you on this. It just felt like something was wrong when I heard that Zimmerman could hold on to the gun. For some reason, that felt wrong to me, no matter what you believe happened on that day. Do you think this means that a civil suit is in the near future?
Well, I don't know if a civil suit is in the near future, but what this means to me, the feds are taking this very seriously, okay? They are getting this evidence. They are conducting a real investigation. And frankly, I think there is a possibility. I might be the lone person in the country who sees it this way, but I think there is a real possibility that the feds might charge a civil rights violation in this case because so many people view this case so differently.
Yeah, we've seen so many protests of people just standing up for Trayvon Martin. John, what about the president talking about the stand your ground law and saying, okay, it's ambiguous? Do you see that changing the law in the near future?
We've got to. You know, no matter where your opinion is on what stand your ground means and what it's supposed to do, it doesn't do that. And we had Mark O'Meara and the prosecutors arguing over a comma. If the lawyers can't get a comma right, and the judges can't get a comma right, and the legislators get a comma right, how do we expect 6 people that all you had to have was a driver's license figure out what it's supposed to mean and what it's supposed to say?
Darren, I will say that people around the building stopped at all the monitors, all the TVs when they saw President Obama speaking. I think the country was desperate to hear from our leader. What did you think of President Obama speaking on this?
Well, on the one hand, I really liked it, and I think that we all need to put aside the formality, the legal blah, 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 and have a real conversation. But what that requires is everybody being willing to set aside whatever agenda they have and really listen to one another. You know, it's so interesting because obviously President Obama's experience is very different than mine. And while on the one hand there are certain aspects of his experience that I might naturally want to even discount, to say, you know, really, is that really the experience you had? Yet I can't do that. It's really important that we all have a deeper listening and understanding of each other, or else we're going to keep on getting the same results that we've been getting.
Right.
And I don't think anybody likes where that's at.
Because the bottom line is the president went through that. He was saying, I was followed in a department store. I went through that. I was walking down the street and saw someone hit the lock button. Tanya, he also talked about the future, and he said from generation to generation, he sees it getting better, saying he saw with his own daughter, Sasha Malia, and their interactions. So he was putting a spin on this in his truth, saying it is getting better.
And I think many people believe that. I think many African Americans believe that. Even though they might be critical of this verdict, they might be critical of stand your ground laws, there's still work to do, there's still some dialogue that needs to happen. But I don't think anybody is saying that we have not made tremendous strides on the front of racial equality and seeing each other as sort of an American family. So I thought it was very honest that he put that in there. The fact that he referenced his daughters, I think that's absolutely true. It rang true for me. I have a 17-year-old daughter, and I can tell you, while I was shocked and surprised to see the first black president, she was not.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing. Tanya, John, and Darren, stick around. We have a lot more to talk about legally. Thanks so much. And coming up, I want to bring back our legal experts, Attorney John Phillips, criminal defense attorneys Tanya Miller, Darren Kavanoki. This is a tough one, and John, I'll start with you on it. My sister has 2 kids, one is a boy, and I'll tell you, she's afraid, and I know a lot of moms who are, to enroll their son in, let's say, football or something high impact. But this is tough. Who do you blame? Do you blame the baseball league? Or maybe just parents are looking for someone to take the blame, especially in that story we saw with the dad losing his son.
Being a personal injury attorney, sometimes it's tough because you look at these suits and you might file it, and people are like, oh, you're suing the Little League. You know, you're shutting it down for the other kids when, you know, when I was fine. And no, you're trying to regulate and make these safer, make sure that the coaches and the medical care and everything is on the sidelines, because you see it more and more. Girls soccer, it's getting more and more involved. Lacrosse is now, there's a southern version of lacrosse that's getting more and more physical, and you see these head injuries, and they're ruining people's lives.
Anything really, gymnastics. And Darren, in this particular case, the parents are alleging that the bat was somehow doctored to make the ball go a little bit faster, and the bat is the weapon in this case, if you will. But if every parent sued for every injury in sports, there would be a lawsuit literally every day.
Well, but the bat makes all the difference. And if we kind of take a step back from this, parents, I believe, have a responsibility to make sure that their kids play in activities that they screen, that they review, because nothing is without risk. And obviously there have been injuries in baseball, professional baseball down to Little League, so it's not that baseball itself is without risk. But really the crux of the complaint here is that the Little League failed to take reasonable steps to protect the safety of the participants. And if this allegation about the shaved bat is in fact true, and obviously we don't know that it is, that's something that gets played out during the discovery process. If that is true, that could be a game changer in terms of the outcome of this case.
They're saying it's not true, but then a parent is saying there was a bat switch going on, so we don't know the exact details and how this will play out. Tanya, we were talking during the break. You have a daughter who is injured in sports.
That's right.
How do you feel about this in terms of parents wanting to bring a lawsuit against?
Well, I think Darren makes a good point, right? Kids who play sports assume some degree of risk that they're going to be injured. That's sort of a reasonable thing that parents and kids assume when they undertake to play the sport. The question in this case is whether or not this use of this altered bat takes it out of sort of the ordinary expectation of injury and puts it into something different. And there's no doubt that the league has a duty to make sure that the players are safe and that they're safe from this kind of injury that really goes beyond what is sort of necessary and expected in contact sports. So we just kind of have to wait to see this whole bat issue and how it plays out. That's critical.
Yeah, because, John, there are rules in
Susan,
place. Go ahead, Darren.
Oh, yeah, no, in this particular case, there's some suggestion that the bat in question mysteriously disappeared and was swapped out. And that could raise an issue about consciousness of wrongdoing, consciousness of guilt. So expect that issue to loom large in this case,
And
too.
there are rules in place, you know, face masks with football. You have a baby son. Would you allow him to play sports way down the road? I
was an NFL agent for 3 years, and so I've seen some of this and the other side of it, and I've listened to some former players say, I'm not letting my kid play. And so I'm reserving on football. I played it. I think it made me a better person, but I don't know.
I interviewed Eric LeGrand, and he had a severe spinal injury during a football game. I mean, there are injuries. It could happen. As a parent, you hope that it doesn't, but it certainly could, and we're going to follow through on this lawsuit. Go on, Darren.
I want to go on record, Susan, that warming the bench, which was my role, did not injure me at all.
Darren, thanks, and we'll end on that note. No lawsuits, because Darren was on the bench. Thanks so much.